information to give out or the preamble. Before opening the meeting, can I ask any participants to keep their cameras and microphones off unless they wish to speak? Ideally, not use the camera facility at all. This is referred to people online at all, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. If any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device, please ensure that you mute it to avoid any feedback. This meeting will be recorded and data collected during the meeting. During the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. Members accessing the meeting remotely should use their Swale Borough Council or KCC laptop to participate virtually. If you join using the link on the website or on a mobile and tablet device, it is not always possible to identify you, and you may not be recorded as being in remote attendance. I'd like to welcome all members and visiting members to the Community Committee, particularly those attending remotely. So that the following staff are in attendance. We've got Martin Purcell, Emma Wiggins, and Stephanie Curtis. And online, we've got Jay Jenkins, who's online at the moment. So far, drill plan tonight. And if the alarm sounds, those in attendance should leave via the exits indicated and assemble outside where directed. Do not use the lift. Please, does anyone here at the meeting require any assistance on exiting the building? In other words, do you have any mobility issues that may affect you trying to use the fire escape should a fire happen? If I can just ask now for any members or any apologies or absence and confirmation of any substitutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Lloyd Chapman, Elliot Jays, Claire Martin, Leanne Moore, London. Substitutes this evening are Councillor Anne Kavanagh, subbing for Councillor Jays, Councillor Mike Henderson, subbing Councillor Mundy. Thank you.
Got two sets of minutes to approve. Let's not go on to the minutes yet. Declarations of interest. Council take decisions in order to gain financial or other material benefits for themselves, their family or friends. The chair will ask members, so I'm asking the members if you have any disclosable pecuniary interest or disclosable non-pecuniary interest. To declare in respect of items on the agenda, members with disclosable pecuniary interest in an item must leave the room for that item and may not participate in the debate or vote. Any member with disclosable pecuniary interest. Disclosable pecuniary interest, where a fair-minded person, would think that there is a real possibility that a member might be biased or predetermined on an item, the member should declare this and leave the room while that item is being considered. I think that applies on this. Should you actually consider that you might have been predetermined, biased, or have an interest, you should always seek the advice from the monitoring officer. Just before we go on to item 4, the minutes, just to advise, if you could, don't speak too close to the microphone, it gets a bit muffly. But again, say you're on about 4 or 6 inches away from the mic, and that should hopefully be picked up well by anyone. If you get too close, it may be a bit muffly. Item number 4, the minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes to approve. The minutes from the 1st of March, minute number 744 to 751. I take it you've all looked at the minutes. It might be a bit awkward if some of you weren't here at the time. And I'm trying to see who was here, but if anyone was here at the time would like to propose, and we could try and get a seconder for these minutes. Well, I could propose the minutes from the 1st of March. And Councillor Perkins seconds them. Are we all happy that the election of that meeting that took place on the 1st of March? Yeah, on you. And the other set of minutes we need to approve are the ones that was held on the 17th of May. And we were all the minute numbers 19 to 20. And I'd like if someone can propose the minutes, Councillor Perkin again and Councillor Winkler second. Is everyone happy that those minutes are a true reflection of that meeting on the 17th of May? So we move on to the next part B, report for the community to community side. The next item is agenda item 5, which I'll ask the officer to introduce, and the report is titled Closed Churchyards and War Memorials. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Apologies, I'm not there in person, but having discussed with Martin, I didn't feel I should share the illness I've got at the moment, so I do apologise for not being there in person. The report before you this evening is closed churchyards and war memorials. There are 2 recommendations that we're presenting to you this evening. The first one is that we continue to prioritise the work based on the risk rating that we've used previously, and also utilising the remaining agreed budgets. The second recommendation is that any works that sit outside of the remaining budget, we will be presenting that to the appropriate committee prior to for approval, prior to commencing those works. The report itself provides some background around what a closed churchyard is, why the responsibility passes through to ourselves, and whilst the ownership of the area remains with the diocese, the maintenance and health and safety of that facility passes over to ourselves to manage. We do have risk assessments in place for each of the facilities. We review those annually, or when we have an incident or an accident and so on. Due to the previous condition and reports of issues around the borough, in August of 2019, colleagues in property services instigated a condition survey, which was undertaken by, a company called Gen2. They produced the report and provided a comprehensive report on 21 of the closed churchyards and 10 of the war memorials. I've listed there the areas that those audits looked at, the 8 areas specifically they looked at. When we received the reports, 12 of the churchyards were deemed to have priority 1 works, and that was based on the criteria above, but predominantly around safety and or likelihood to cause harm. The condition surveys were subsequently reviewed by the Special Projects Manager and our colleague Conservation and Design Manager. We then had to go through a process of approval with the diocese, and that can be a protracted process, but we have managed to work through that, and we have completed a number of works which I'll come to shortly. To give you some financial background, we have an annual memorial budget of just on £32,000. We did at the start of the works have a reserve of just under 66, and we have a reserve specifically for trees within closed churchyards of 63. It's just a point of note, the trees were not included in the surveys. Since we have been liaising with what at the time was cabinet member for planning, apologies, there was an additional £80,000 provided for the works via the Improvement and Resilience Fund, and just over another £9,500 was provided by the Western Area Committee for specific works within those areas. Point to note there, the recent works that's been carried out to St Michael's boundary wall, although they were included in the survey, they weren't included in the budgets. They were funded from a separate stream. As of June of this year, I've detailed the money that's been spent to date. I'm pleased to say all priority ones are now complete. And I've listed the just over £74,000 and specific areas that have been done. We've also worked on 2 specific war memorials, which is just over the 26,000. And at the time of writing the report, we'd placed an order for just under 14,500 for some additional war memorial works. Because of the ongoing risk of these areas, in November of 22, the chair of the community committee wrote to both local MPs, and in turn, one of them wrote to Lee Rowley, who's the MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary, State for Local Government and Building Safety, and I've attached the letters in the appendices for your review. Unfortunately, the response was one that we remain with the risk and the challenge, and therefore it's an ongoing stream of work for us to manage. In the implications sections, I've listed out the numbers that I've already gone through. We do have a remaining balance of those original numbers, and at the moment we estimate that the priority 2 works, which have yet to start, they are estimated at just over £217,000, and the additional priority 3 works a further 126, just over £126,500. One point to note, if I may, the main colleague that's been collating and driving this has been the special projects manager, special projects officer, apologies. And unfortunately, as of the 1st of July, this role will no longer be in place, and therefore that will obviously put added pressure on this work stream. As I mentioned previously, there's 3 appendices there. The third one, which I failed to mention, apologies, is there just a copy of a previous member's briefing note that was produced a year or so ago when we first commenced the project. So thank you very much. I'll take any questions or excuse me.
Thank you for that, Jay. So we've got the 2 recommendations there, but I've noticed that Councillor Henderson has a question, so I'll go straight to Councillor Henderson for your question. But thank you, Welsh. It's obvious that you're suffering. I hope it's not a virus, otherwise Teams will be down tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you for that. I have no problem with the recommendations as made. However, it is clear that this whole setup is, the whole current system is unfair, totally out of date. It's been running for 175 years, and unsustainable in the longer term future. And indeed, I only heard a moment ago that even more unsustainable than I thought, with something nearing 350,000 of outstanding expenditure in priorities 2 and 3. So I'd like to propose an addendum to the recommendations, and that is that we write back to the Minister, tell him that the current system is unfair, out of date and unsustainable, and ask him that the government agrees to contact Church of England whether the funding in the future of such repairs could be put on a fairer and more sustainable basis of at least a shared contribution. I don't think there's any point in writing to the government saying we haven't got any money. I mean, they know that. But this cannot go on indefinitely. There will be more church graveyard closures in the future. There will be more priority 1, never mind 2, 3, and 4 requirements for repair. And in the longer term, something needs to be done. It seems a good, detailed information to provide the government. We can tell them where we are in terms of expenditure, because I'll bet they don't know. So I propose that addendum that the chairman writes to the minister and seeks how these costs are shared and continued into the future.
Take that on board, and I think, provided you all sort of support that, I think we should, but I think we wrote to the MPs, we wrote to both MPs, Gordon Henderson has taken it up with the minister. And in fairness, we should, rather than writing direct to the minister, we should go again to both MPs, perhaps a copy of the letter and say, can you progress this on our behalf? But minister, I don't know if you captured what was said there, but put that sort of sentiment of the burden it's placing upon the council, it's out of date, it's going to continue to face a burden, join this, and we're stretched for money, and well, I think sharing the burden is a very good offer, and whether you want to email something in, we could work with the officers and tidy that up a little bit.
I'm happy to take your advice on it, Mr. Chairman, if you prefer to write to the MPs. I was jealous that Cityborn Shepherd is responsive and as ever, we have heard before. Certainly do no harm.
I'm quite happy with that. Is it what? Quite happy with that. Councillor?
Thank you. Sorry, I probably should have declared an interest as a church warden for Trinity Queenborough. Sorry. I would suggest that what we're doing is great. I include the churches and the parishes in these reports and sending them out and saying, look, these are the issues. Money. Some of those churches will have access to listed places of worship funds. So working with officers and the committee, we could probably pull in some additional funds.
I'm going to defer to Martin to answer that one, so I think he's been in contact with many people.
Yeah, so if I do it in reverse, absolutely, where there are priority works, we have started. Obviously, we've focused on priority 1s first, because they were the higher health and safety risks. Priority 2 and 3 on an immediate danger. They are, they will need some attention in the future. And so, as Jay alluded to, we've worked our way through the priority 1s. We've been and visited a lot of them to spec up the work. And certainly on Linstead Parish Wall, there's into it. We've engaged heavily with the parish council through that process at the same church as well. So I think it's an excellent suggestion, and we do it. In terms of Councillor Henderson's point, I think because there's no financial impact of that, and it can be done as an addendum. We're more than happy to work with you guys to draft a letter. We can, given that the Secretary of State or Minister has written to us we can probably try and do both at the same time. I'm happy to take advice from that recordings team, to be honest.
Sorry. Hang on first and then Councillor Perkins.
Money. So three, it's not £2.50 we're talking about, it's an awful lot of money. But that's all. Part of that, I totally.
Right, valid point, we'll take that on board, yeah. Yeah. Councillor Perkins.
Yeah. But please let's keep the pressure on Hannah MP as well, because it's a bit of a theme in this council chamber that we hear Gordon Henderson has written to this person and Hannah Wickley has not been heard from. So if we could, when we're writing to Gordon Henderson and them, that would be it. Thank you.
So I think if we can move to the vote, there's two recommendations on the table, and we take them both together. Recommendation 1, to continue to prioritise work based on risks rating, utilising remaining agreed budgets. Item 2, or recommendation 2, all major works outside of remaining agreed budgets to be presented to the appropriate. Do I have a proposal for that? Okay, Councillor Perkins and then Councillor Winkles.
And there's that.
Yes. Is everyone quite happy with that? Anyone? Who's for?
A bit of procedure. Do you want it added as a recommendation? Do you just want it noted in the minutes? It will happen, so I'm comfortable with that rather than adding a recommendation.
So, is everyone quite happy? Everyone in favour of the recommendation?
Fine.
Once again, no abstention. Thank you, James. Thank you very much for that. And we can move on to agenda item 6 now. Agenda item 6 are the nominations to the Community Safety Partnership. And if I can hand over to Stephanie Curtis, the Community Services Manager, to introduce this item. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So this report asks us member representation for this year, 23. Brings together a number of public sector agencies to tackle crime, disorder, antisocial behaviour, substance misuse and reoffending, alongside ourselves as agencies of education, health services, and we also work really closely with other key organisations for the borough, such as the prison service. Not deliberate mistake in my report. Octago is now housing. There is a statutory partner of the Community Sector Partnership, both members and officers sat on our executive board of the Community Sector Partnership for some years. In the sort of two members. Safety in the borough. And in addition to sort of the representation on the physical of the partnership as well. So therefore, when appointing the members to sit on the household who's no longer sort of represented on this committee. So the proposals for this committee are to determine which to the slab of centre partnership and
Move over to, does anyone want to nominate or make any recommendations?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Councillor Perkins to one of the places. Perkins done a lot of work in this field already, and I'm certain that she would work very hard on for the whole of the council on the push.
Second, I'll second. Sorry, again. Any other nominations?
Can I nominate Councillor Tom Nundy? Very keen for that be on the committee. Thank you.
They're both happy to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's get away from work.
I'll do it on both, well, okay. Who's in favour of Councillor Perkins being the representative on the Community Safety Partnership? That item's complete. We move on to agenda item number 7. And this is for a representative to be nominated by this committee. Sorry, I'm going to hand over. Sorry, I'll hand over to Kate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this recommendation is to determine which of the committee member would like to be appointed to the Swale Community Leisure Board and to attend the quarterly meetings that the Leisure Board undertake. The little bit of background is that the board is made up of volunteers across the range of sectors, and one of the important parts is that a Swale Borough Council representative is engaged within that board to represent Swale's interests and to provide an opportunity for sort of feedback either way through to from the board to officers and senior managers. Excuse me. I've listed the dates there of the next 4 board meetings. They're alternate between Swallows Leisure Centre and Sheppey Leisure Complex. All of them are at 4 till 6 p.m, but they have varied in the past depending on the wider board's availability. But these 4 dates have now been set through to April of next year. The proposals is, as I said, that one of the nominated member then represents the council. It will not become a trustee, but will be sat as a non-exec role within the board. The alternative options are that these roles, there are no real alternative options. We do need somebody to represent Swale Borough Council within the board. It's a very important contract for the council, and therefore it's crucially important that someone is representing us on the board. There are no real implications. I've listed the priority under the corporate plan there, but the rest of them there are none, and there are no supporting documents, but happy to take questions. Thank you.
If I may, I don't entirely understand where we're going with this. A member of the board, but not a trustee. How that works. And also, historically, we have had somebody from this council, going back a few years, I think was chair. Do we have anybody else involved in representing the council on this body?
It bows down to, sorry, through you, Chair. This all bows down to the contractual position. So because they are an independent trust, they are able to determine their own governance of instrument and invite a council member to attend the board. They attend as a non-trustee, so in a non-voting capacity, but it's very much there around continuing a relationship so that we can have a voice into the board and obviously take things back from their board. It's covered through the leisure contract, which is why it's slightly different. So
it's not a member of the board, it's attending
board meetings and being the voice and the presence of the council, and bringing back. So yeah, ultimately, and it's worked well over time.
Yeah. I'll ask if there's any nominations for that role on the community community board. Councillor Cheeseman.
I'll second Councillor.
Nominate. Okay, so it looks like we've got one nomination, Councillor Last. So I'd like to put that to the vote just for clarity. All those in favour of Councillor Last? Okay. There's obviously no one's against and no abstentions. Agenda item 8 is the looking forward to the forward plan. The parking services annual report. We will look at the parking service, the parking how done in the previous 12 months. Yeah, we've done hopefully that is something that will come to the September's meeting. It's something worth looking at. If you're just doing the paper strategy, a contract that we need to decide, the community development contract, but that's just looking ahead to what's coming up. I don't think we need to take any questions on that. However, I feel I should mention there's one other thing that will come up. We're going to look at a working party, or setting up a working party. More details will come out to the community committee. Working party on a parking policy review, and that will form and work on how we can look at the parking policy for the borough that's fit for the next 5 or more years. But more information will come out on that, hopefully within the people to them. If Emma or Martin, if you want to add to that, feel free.
Sorry, I appreciate, Chair, that you said we didn't need to ask questions, but I just do have a question. So with this working group, is the view of it that it will members, or are we looking to maybe, I'm thinking that actually like the Fashion Traders Association, like a representative from that would probably be quite associations, or like what are they called, commerce groups in the borough. I'm just wondering whether it would be helpful to have outside reps, or if we're not.
Ask Martin Cassell to answer that one.
So the first meeting will discuss all of that context of the working group. The intention is to try and bring things that have been custom and practice for many years across the borough, but under a policy decision. Way that we envisage it working is that group coming together and almost setting a terms of reference of how the review is going to happen. It will then come back to this committee in September for approval of that's the right sort of scope. The outcome being a policy that would then go out to consultation with the wider community, including all of those bodies. Yeah. Just Chair, I haven't had a chance to run this by you because it's hot off the press. I'm told by Sport England that the playing pitch strategy is going to be delayed because some of the national governing bodies decide to take the summer off and can't quite provide us the feedback that they need on our local policy. So although I would have had their feedback by the September meeting, I won't have probably had a chance to put it into the document. So probably need to bump that along to the next. Apologies, as part of the press, I haven't been able to carry that one.
Like these things happen, sometimes things are out of our control, where things might have to get moved backwards, and sometimes things will be brought forward. Any other questions or comments from anybody else? Working party going to speak. How many councillors would you see being on it? I would see from this group one member representing each party and a chair. I think if you keep a committee work better when it's small, in my view. On the community committee tonight, quite well. Councillor Henderson.
Long ago, Labour councillor on this trust organisation was heard to say that working parties should always be an odd number and 3 is too many. That was Councillor Ball.
If there was any dissent with the one person, he could always have the casting vote.
Yeah.
So if that's all right with all of you here, at 7:40, I will close this meeting. Thank you.